We're going to start from the Mishnah on Chaf Gimel Amud Beis. Hamevi Hashem Tali v'nei Lesh Lechata. He brings an Hashem Tali because he thought he didn't have Aveira. Right? He ate one of the two pieces of meat that were there, and it turns out, he finds out later that he didn't do the Aveira. So he brought Hashem Tali just to be safe, but then he finds out it wasn't necessary. So we're going to go through the stages of it, at which point he found out that it wasn't necessary. So stage one, if he finds out before the sacrifice was slaughtered. So in other words, he just designated the sacrifice. So Yotzev Yerbeida. It can go out and pasture. That means there's no sanctity to this animal anymore. It was all a mistake. He thought he needed it. It was a mistake. He doesn't need it, and it's not sanctified. Different Reb Meir. That's what Reb Meir says. Chachamim say no. Yirad she is starved. You have to let it pasture until it gets a blemish. Then you sell it. And then the money is going to go to a donation sacrifice, which means that it's brought when the temple is empty, when the altar is empty.
I heard a beep. I don't know if it's still recording.
Yes.
Beep.
Still recording.
Okay. The explanation that the Gemara is going to explain is very beautiful. That Reb Meir, the Machlekes Reb Meir and Chachamim, is that the Chachamim hold that you're bringing this sacrifice as sort of an insurance. So whether you use the insurance or not, you designated it for the insurance. You can't claim afterwards and say, I want my money back because I didn't need the insurance. You know, the point of the insurance is to keep you settled during that time. That maybe you'll need it or maybe not, but it doesn't matter. It's still, you still have that peace of mind that should I have committed that sin, this will be the atonement for it. So the Chachamim are saying, no, it is a sacrifice, even though you didn't really need it, because you turned out later that it wasn't a real sin, but you designated it just in case it was a sin. So that's a real designation. Now you find out that he can't bring it, so you let it get a mum. The Reb Meir doesn't say that. Reb Meir says that it was a mistake. You don't need it. There was... Okay. Rabbi Eliezer Oimer.
Since he designated it as a carbon tulip, can he sell to somebody else that's chayiv for a carbon tulip? And then he gets out of the whole fix.
Once it's
According to the Chachamim.
Doesn't it belong to the priests?
No, it's still his. Here we're saying that there's a machlekes Reb Meir and Chachamim. What happens to this designation when we find out it was a mistake? Reb Lezer Miyakriv. Reb Lezer says you just bring it. If it's not for this sin, it comes for another sin. She reminds me in All for the Boss. Remember that book, All for the Boss? So she tells her husband one of the kids did something wrong, so he goes into the room.
Learn the share for the
and he gives the kid a patch. And then she says, no, it wasn't that one, it was the other kid. He says, oh, so they got the patch for something else they did wrong. Okay, so Rabbi Lezer says that he has a different view of an Asham Tali. So we're learning for the Yuli Nishmas, Chaim Yecheskel ben Moshe ben Yamin. Rabbi Lezer has a different view of an Asham Tali. He says it comes for, in general, any possible sin that the person could have done. Okay, we'll learn more about Rabbi Lezer in the next Mishnah. If after it was slaughtered, he finds out that the whole thing wasn't necessary, somehow he finds out, we'll see exactly how he finds out. In Noidala, he finds out that it wasn't necessary. Yishafech Adam. So the blood gets spilt out into the stream that goes through the courtyard. And you take the flesh out to be burnt, which is what you do with the carbon that's puzzle. Because this is a carbon that's not necessary. Let's say Nizrak Adam. Let's say the sacrifice was basically all brought. The blood was sprinkled. And then he finds out that he never committed the sin. So, and it says over here, you could eat the meat. was brought already. Rabbi Yossi says, "Afilu adam b'kais yizarek v'basiyech." Rabbi Yossi says that even if the blood wasn't sprinkled, but the blood was caught in the klishares, in the utensil, so you can already sprinkle the blood and eat the meat. We're going to say in the Gemara that Rabbi Yossi holds that kol ha'omed lizarek yizarek dami. Anything that has the potential for it, it's as if it's already been done, sort of like theoretical physics. That's all. Possibilities have already been happened. So Rabbi Yossi says you had potential to sprinkle it. It's as if it's sprinkled already. So just go ahead and sprinkle it, and you can eat the meat. The kohanim eat it. Correct. Asham vada yenekain. Asham vada is a different type of sacrifice. It's not an asham tali. It's an asham that's being brought. You're not going to be able to compete. Okay. Asham Vadai is different. Why? Because Asham Vadai goes like this. Asham Vadai you're bringing for... Asham Vadai you're bringing for one of 5 different sins. So the halacha here goes like this. Here, you're designating it because of a definite sin. There's no insurance. It's not, you're not designating it because you want to be safe just in case. So here we goes like this. Einikein means it's not like an Asham Tali. By an Asham Tali we had a machlekes between the Chachamim and Reb Meir. Over here we don't have any machlekes. Actually, nishchat, yatzavir be'eder. If it wasn't slaughtered, it's not a sacrifice. It's an absolute mistake, and there's no sanctity here. Misha nishchat, but once it's slaughtered, rezi you cover. Then it gets buried. Gemara's going to ask on this, why you cover. Usually sacrifices are burnt. Why you cover? You cover means buried. Nizar kadam, if the blood is sprinkled. Habasar yaitze lebeisa streifa. The flesh goes out to the place of burning. This is gonna contradict, because what is it? You cover lebeisa streifa. Which one is it? The Gemara is going to say there's different tanoim here that are teaching this. Shora niskalinakin. We're jumping away from sacrifices now. Talking about an animal that needs to be killed. Not as a sacrifice. Not on the altar. It needs to be stoned. Maybe it killed a man. Maybe it lived with a human. So this is also different, because let's say it was assumed that it killed a man or lived with a human, and ad shalei niskal. If you find out that event never really happened. Ad shalei niskal. If you find out before the animal was killed, then Yasavir Rabbi Yehuda, there's nothing wrong with it. Misha niskal. If it was killed already, mutar b'hana, you're allowed to have benefit from the flesh. Normally, the flesh, you can't even feed it to animals. But here, you find out afterwards that the whole thing was a mistake, you can have benefit from the flesh. It could be even someone came along and shechted it.
The whole thing they finding out now means already based in, made the mistake.
You're right. Right. They have some new testimony. Possibilities that the Gemara is going to offer to us is maybe a huzmu edav. There was Adam Zayman. So they passed, and then 2 other witnesses said, "How could you have said that? You weren't even there. You were with us." Or another possibility is the guy that got killed shows up, and he's walking around. You say, "Well, this must have not happened." So that's enough. We'll see in the Gemara what the cases are. Egla rufa einakein. Also in Egla rufa, this is when someone dies outside a city. We don't know who killed him. He was murdered outside a city. So they take a calf and they break the neck. Actually, nerfa, if it was discovered, here you can't have the guy walking around. Yeah, it was discovered that this is not necessary. Maybe they found out who did it or something. So then, teitzivitir beider. Then you don't need to bring the Egla rufa. It goes to pasture. But mishinerfa, once it's already been, the neck has been broken, tikover b'mekayma. it's buried in its place, shall safek b'mitchila. Because it was only meant to be brought for because of a doubt. And Kipra, Sveika, V'halchala. That means at the time of the breaking of the neck, there still was a doubt. And so the atonement was there, and that was it. So it's still going to be Asr Bana because it did its mission of what it was supposed to do. The Gemara now asks, B'mai Pligi, what is the machlekes between Reb Meir and the Chachamim in the beginning of the Mishnah, where we said if a person finds out that he didn't need this Asham Tali because he never committed the sin, the Chachamim say it's still considered a sacrifice and it's treated as a sacrifice that's not necessary. And Reb Meir says it's not a sacrifice. Reb Meir says it's not a sacrifice at all. Reb Meir savar kivad leitzarechla leimakdishla. He says Reb Meir says since it's not necessary, it was never sanctified, never consecrated. Rabbanan savrim mitaychshali benaikfai, because his heart was pounding. That means he was concerned that he may have committed the sin, so he's bringing this just in case. So Gaimer Makdish, it's like an insurance. He was ready to consecrate this just in case, to take away that concern that he had. Very interesting brisa Tana that was taught in a brisa bein shenaydalei shachata bein naydalei shleichata pligi Reb Meir v'Rabbanan. There's two options why he should not need this Asham Tali. One option is he finds out he did not sin. The other option is he finds out that he did sin. And both of them would not require an Asham Tali. Asham Tali is only a sacrifice that's brought because of a doubt. If he didn't sin, he doesn't need any carbon. If he did sin, he needs a chatas, not an asham, and not an asham tali. So, in both of these cases, we still have the machlekes Reb Meir and Rabbanan. B'noi delei shechata, if he knows that he sinned, l'diacha keichid Reb Meir. So it's a chiddush according to Reb Meir that says that this is not considered a sacrifice. Dafal gav the yada dechata, even though now he knows that he sinned, but given to be idna da'afarshay, since at the time that he designated it, lo yada, he didn't sin, so teitzer v'tir be'eder. Then nevertheless it can still go out and pasture. It's not a sacrifice at all, even though he really committed a sin. When he knows that he did not sin, this is a chiddush according to the Rabbanan that say it's still a sacrifice. Since at the time that he separated it, consecrated it, so at that time he was concerned that he might have sinned, so Hilkach Kamar Makdish is still considered a sacrifice. Amar of Sheshis. Sheshis says, Maider Reb Meir Chachamim. Reb Meir would agree.
They said that his heart pounded within him. Was that like anxiety? Or
Anxiety. Wow. He's concerned that he may get punishment for he feels guilty.
Wow.
So he designates it. So it's this insurance thing that even though he finds out that he didn't sin and the whole thing wasn't necessary, but he still consecrated it to get through that time without any punishment. Rav Shesha says that Reb Meir agrees to the Chachamim in a certain case. Reb Meir held that it's not considered a sacrifice. It goes like this. If someone consecrates two sacrifices, Reb Meir said that it's not considered a sacrifice. The Chachamim say it is considered a sacrifice. Over here, Reb Meir is going to agree it is a sacrifice. In a skaper bachas mem, one of them is used as his carbon. The sheni gerach is starved. The second one still has.
So he hedges his bets here with Afrayas. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Because if it is, then it'll be this one. If not, it'll be that one.
If I lose one, I should just have extra.
So that's what I'm saying. It's a.
So he consecrates it. This is what people do when they go to the store. They go shopping for the wife. They don't know which one the wife actually wanted, so they have to buy both. So he doesn't know like which one, he might lose one or something. So he consecrates two. Then afterwards he uses one, and the other one still has some sanctity. So
Rameir is saying you can set the clock back. That was the first line in the
Yeah.
Mishnah, right? You
Yeah,
set the
but
clock back, it was wrong.
right.
So you undo everything, and now I can use the animal
Yeah.
for what
Now
I
over
want.
here-
So I bring two.
Over here, we're not setting the clock back. He's not saying that he finds out that he never needed to bring the carbon. We're not saying that. We're saying over here that why is one of these carbonas not necessary? Because he brought the other one.
This for two for the same Avera.
Two for the same Avera. He designated both just in case. One just in case, achrayas, just to be more responsible. A backup. Yeah, like I have 2 pencils here. So I don't need 2 pencils. It's a backup. Someone may need a pencil. This guy separates 2 carbonas. It's a backup. So over here, Reb Meir is going to be maida that Yirad Sheyistarv. He let it pasture until it gets a mum. And then it becomes a sacrifice, a donation. My timer. What's the reason? Why does Reb Meir argue on the rabbis that it's not considered a sacrifice? The loy gali daite de libenaikvai. Over there, he never said that he's bringing it even if he doesn't need it. He's bringing it because he thought maybe he does need it. He never alluded to the fact that even if he doesn't need it, he just wants to be secure. He thought maybe he ate it. So it's only because of the doubt. But if there's no doubt, then he never would have consecrated it. Aval hacha, but over here, michti. He only needed one. My time after tray. Why did he consecrate 2? Over here, he is letting us know that he is concerned that one of them may get lost. The savar imirkas chada, mirkas is like irkas. Irkas is it gets lost. If one of them gets lost, like ksubadir, because it's this is if it gets lost, chada mechaprana beida chavri. He'll get a kapara from the other one. Even the gali daitid libanaik k'vay haya. Since over here he lets us know that his heart was pounding, that he was concerned, he had to consecrate 2. So over here we see that the second one does have some sanctity because he really did consecrate it, even though he probably doesn't need it, but he wanted to be safe. So that's the reason why that's Rav Sheshes is telling us that over here Reb Meir would agree to the Chachamim that there is sanctity to the second sacrifice.
It all comes down to intent.
It all comes down to intent, correct? Amar Rav Yehuda Rav Yehuda says the name of Rav Meidim Chacham Rav Meir. He goes the opposite way. The Chachamim would agree to Rav Meir that it's not considered a sacrifice. Look at this. Basham Talishuz Mu'edav. If the reason why he's bringing the sacrifice is not because he felt guilty, he's bringing it because witnesses testified about him that he committed a sin.
He had no choice.
Or possibly committed a sin. So it was not his own doing, he had no choice. And then it turns out that Huz Mu'edav, the witnesses are proven to be Eidim Saimamin. So he was never bringing it because of Libei Naikva. He was bringing it because, oh my gosh, the court is enforcing this on me. And I have to do it, but I don't want to. The Yotz of the Yerabed over there, it's not a carbon. My time, why did the rabbis argue with Reb Meir? That's because he consecrated on his own. And then they say, we say, his heart was pounding. But if it's al piedim, he wasn't even relying on the Edim. He was hoping that this would happen, that other witnesses would come. So he never really consecrated it fully. He's only consecrated because, look, this is what's happening right now.
He's
following the law. Hopefully, somehow this will be discovered that this is totally not accurate.
If it is accurate, he
knows that he never ate it.
Okay, he's great, but the court doesn't know that yet. He doesn't know that the court will eventually be acquitted.
Yeah, but he's not concerned about his own soul getting a punishment. He's just following the procedure, and he's hoping that this won't fall through. This won't follow through, that follow. You see, in the case where he's designating the sacrifice on his own, he has a guilty feeling. He's afraid that he's going to get a punishment. So to make sure that nothing happens in the interim until he finds out, he brings an Asham Tali.
Okay, so if he's ultimately condemned, right? Then he gets to bring another sacrifice.
Then he has to bring a Chatas, yeah.
So it's really just an
The
insurance.
Tali was an insurance for the interim.
He's got to pay up that anyway.
Right. So here we say that he never really wanted the insurance. This was imposed on him. And if we find out that it's not necessary, he never really consecrated. He was hoping this would happen, that it would be discovered that it wasn't necessary. Masiv Rava. It's actually supposed to be Rabba. Let me see if that's correct. Rabba. Rabba asks a question. What we're going to do here, we're going to ask a question on Rabbi Yehuda Marav that said that if there's Eidim Zaymamin, the Chacham would agree that it's not considered a sacrifice. If he finds out that the whole thing isn't necessary, it's not considered a sacrifice. Rabba is going to prove that the case of our Mishnah where there is a machlekes was a case of Eidim Zaymamin, and that's how we found out that there wasn't a sin. And nevertheless, that's the whole machlekes. Let's see. Shora Niskal Einakin. Shora Niskal, it's not so. Shora Niskal, we're assuming this animal killed a man. Let's see. And what happens is, if we find out before it was slaughtered, then it just goes out into the pasture. The Gemara says, what's the case of the Shar Niskal that we figured this out? Talking about two witnesses come. Amri Harag, they said that this animal killed a man. Beitrei, Amri Loi Harag, and two witnesses come and say he didn't kill. So that's 2 and 2. How do you know that you let it go free? What's the second one's any stronger than the first one's? Elalav Beidi Hazama. It must be that the two witnesses are not contradicting the first ones. The two witnesses are saying that the first ones were with us, which is better. Then we do believe them. The Torah says that if they contradict them, then it gets complicated. But if they say that you were with us, then and you were never there at that story, then we believe the second witnesses. The Kavasei Gabay Ashram Tali. So it must be that that's the same case that's by the Ashram Tali. Ve'ede Hazama, Upligi. And that's the whole machlaikas. So if by Shara Niskal we find out that it's not necessary because of Eidim Zayman, so the first case of Ashram Tali was also Eidim Zayman. And that's the machlaikas, Reman Chachamim. Why does Rabbi Yehuda Marav say that the Chachamim would agree to Reb Meir by Eidim Zayman that it's not a korban? That's mamish the case that they're arguing about. Amalei Abaya. Abaya says to Rabba, V'dilma Shar Niskal, maybe by Shar Niskal it's different. There's no Eidim Zayim in there. The guy shows up. The witnesses testified. The dead guy shows up. Witnesses testified that he killed so-and-so.
He's
right?
coming to testify in his own death.
And then the guy walks into the court.
Halloween.
The Kavasei Gabay Ashim Tali in the Hooker Chatich. How does this apply to Nashim Tali? Maybe he discovers the piece of meat that was chaylev. He discovers that was it. There was a plumber, the thing that's on the chicken that says it's kosher. So there was one that said chaylev, and he finds it underneath the piece of meat. He didn't know how to tell the difference. He thought maybe he ate the chaylev, and then he turns the piece of meat over. He sees no, piece of meat is still there. It's not necessary. But maybe if he would have designated it because witnesses testified that he had to, then he would not need to, it would not be considered a korban, exactly the way that Rabbi Yehuda Marav said. That's Abaya's response to Rabba. Rabba had a question on Yehuda Marav. Why are you saying it's going to be different if it's Eidim Zaymimin and all of that? Abaya says, no, you have no question, because it could be the case that you're comparing it to was a different case. And therefore, by the machlekes by Yashim Tali was not a machlekes on the case of Eidim Zaymimin, it was a machlekes when he just discovers later. Somehow he sends it to the lab. Okay.
Excuse me. And we're still talking, these 18 came and testified about one of these 36 averas for which katos. Are we still back to the subject of the...
Could be. Yeah. One of those. Geplugta. Just like we just had a machlekes here between Rav Yehuda Marav and Rabba, where Rabba says that Eidim Zaymin will not change the halacha. There still be a machlekes even by Eidim Zaymin. Rav Yehuda Marav says no, by Eidim Zaymin the Chacham will agree that the sacrifice is not considered a sacrifice because he never really consecrated it. So that same machlekes we're going to have with Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, or maybe Rabbi Lazar. There's two Kereisos. See, the two Kereisos that we're going to have. We just had a machlekes between Rabba and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabba and Rabbi Yehuda. Now the Gemara is saying, but plukta, it's really a machlekes Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yochanan, or maybe Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Two Kereisos if it's Rabbi Lazar or Rish Lakish. We'll see. Goes like this. Asham Tali Shaz Mu'edav. And Asham Tali, he's bringing it out of doubt, but the Edom came and said, that the Edom said that you have to bring an Asham Tali because he committed a sin. And then other
They're not saying he committed, they're saying he may be.
He may be committed. He may be committed. And then other witnesses come and say, how could you even say maybe?
Right.
You were with us. Rabbi Lazar, or maybe Rish Lakish says, it's exactly like a minchas kanais, which is a saita, which we're going to see in a moment. Titania was taught in a brisa. Nimtzu eidea zaymimin. Minchas kanais, the saita, is what happened there is she gets warned, don't be secluded with this so and so, and witnesses come that she was secluded with so and so. Let's say those witnesses become zaymimin, and she's already designated her mincha. So, minchasa teitze lechulin. The mincha goes out to chulin. So, Rabbi Lazar holds that if Eidim Zaymimin, if the Eidim by an Asham Tali becomes Zaymimin, so teitze lechulin. The sacrifice goes out to chulin. That's what Rabbi Yehuda held. Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Yirad sheyistav yiplu v'yimacher. You wait till it gets a mum. Not by the Saita, but by Asham Tali. You wait till it gets a mum, and then you sell it, and you let the money go to the donations that are when the altar is empty. Rabbi Yochanan minchas kanais. Why doesn't Rabbi Yochanan compare it to the Saita that we find out over there that she was never even secluded, and we said over there that it's just nothing. Teitze lechulin, it goes out. It says leidami. You can't compare. This is Rabbi Yochanan's response. Minchas kanais leilacha parakasi el levar raven. Minchas kanais is not an atonement. This lady possibly sinned. The mincha that she's bringing is not to atone for the sin. This is to clarify if she sinned. This is a whole procedure. We're going to find out. This is to see what her status is. Aval Asham Tali lecha parasi. But Asham Tali is brought as an atonement to cover up the possible guilt. So because of that, Rabbi Yochanan here is saying that he's still covering up the guilt. He still wants an atonement for that guilt, a temporary atonement at least, until he finds out what happened. We were saying, Rabbi Yehuda was saying before, that when it's being imposed on him, then he doesn't feel the guilt, he's just hoping that it goes away. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't hold that. Rabbi Yochanan holds that there still is some sort of insurance. They convinced him that he's guilty. People are telling him he might have committed the sin, so he wants to cover up just in case.
If there's any kind of doubt, period.
Right.
even 1%.
Right.
Filled out.
Amr Chris Bidai. Tell it, yes. You have to tell him the third one is very difficult to get. Yeah. So,
That's what I'll start
Reb
asking.
Chris Bidai
Background of the rabbi.
is a student of Rabbi Yochanan. And apparently, Chris Bidai, do you have any comment here? Does it mean tzitzis or something?
Yeah.
It means edge or border. Tzitzis.
See the
Then
one,
it's-
the one ton and Chris's.
No, we have him in other places. Reb Chris Bidai is famous for saying, on Rosh Hashanah Tesvav, he says the three books are opened.
Oh,
The
really?
tzaddikim, the
That's his
beinim, yeah, that's his thing. That the tzaddikim and
So
the
he's a
Rishonim
famous
are
guy.
judged right away, and the beinim are
exactly.
right in between. That's
Rabbi, even though one was for an atonement and the other is not,
right.
it's still, the whole matter is still regarding whether or not sacrifice, whatever it is,
Right.
is still consecrated.
Right.
That's the real question. Doesn't matter what it's for. It shouldn't matter what it's for. The question
Well-
is it consecrated or not?
Right. But is it consecrated or not depends on what it's for. Because
It could be falsely consecrated.
if it's falsely consecrated, then it's not consecrated. But if it was consecrated as some sort of insurance, just in case, then it's still considered consecrated, even though it's full. It's like someone buys insurance that he never uses.
I got you.
It's still an insurance.